Welcome to the Rural Low-Income Schools, also referred to as RLIS training. My name is Lori Matsky and I am the presenter. I am joined by Lisa Johnson, who is a program manager at DPI. Lisa also works with the RLIS program. Approximately 85% of districts in North Dakota are considered rural according to the federal regulations. We all know that rural districts have unique needs and rural districts have limited funding. Therefore, Congress created the Rural Education Achievement Program, REAP, to address the needs of rural districts. The REAP program was originally funded under No Child Left Behind, and now it has been continued under ESSA. This program provides additional funding for rural schools through two formula grant programs. First, we have the Small Rural Schools Achievement Grant, SRSA, and second, we have the Rural Low Income Schools, RLIS grant. All LEAs that are eligible for these grants must apply each year. Now, you may have seen the term dual eligibility on the charts that DPI has disseminated and posted regarding these REAP programs. That means that some of our districts are actually eligible for both programs, SRSA and RLIS. However, no district can receive funding under both programs, so districts need to select one. If a dual eligible district, for whatever reason, does not submit an SRSA application, because that process occurs in the spring of each year, or possibly it does submit an SRSA, but for whatever reason is not funded, doesn't receive an SRSA allocation, then it automatically is on the list of RLIS eligible districts. The final list of RLIS eligible districts will then be used to determine the allocation amounts for the subsequent year. Local school districts will need to make a determination regarding which grant they wish to apply for. The DPI has just recently disseminated information outlining the districts that are eligible for the RLIS funding for this current school year, 2020-2021. So if you are on the list for RLIS funding, it's too late to apply for the SRSA, or possibly you weren't eligible. You will be able to again make that determination about which grant you want next year if you are dual eligible. So the eligible district just recently received correspondence that provided two links to two guidance documents related to applying for the RLIS funding. The purpose of this first training is to overview the new RLIS guidance. The second training video pertains to the department's web grant system. Once eligible districts have reviewed both training documents, they will be ready to apply for RLIS funding. At this time, we would like to walk participants through the new RLIS guidance. The link to this new guidance document was also included in that recent correspondence we sent out. As stated, the RLIS program is designed to address the needs of rural and low-income schools. The deadline to apply for RLIS funding this year is October 1st, 2020. We have just recently posted the final RLIS allocation chart on the department's website. DPI has two options when running allocations. We can use a competitive process or we can use a formula process. DPI has chosen to use a formula method for RLIS allocations rather than a competitive one to ensure that all of our eligible districts receive funding. The formula process is based on enrollment data. The grant period for obligating and spending RLIS funding is July 1, 2020 through September 30th of 2021. So although you are applying for these dollars in September, you can actually go back and use the funds for allowable activities beginning July 1st of this year and go all the way through September 30th of 2021. This is a change if you've been receiving these funds for the past several years. We used to cut the program off on June 30th, and so you are getting several additional months in your grant period. The RLIS carryover provision has also changed. Historically, we have not allowed carryover with these funds. However, now that we're using the new web grant system, we will be able to operate multiple years at the same time. So any funds that districts have not spent at the end of the grant period, again, September 30th of 2021, you will be able to carry them over for an additional 12 months. Authorized representative. The school board must name an authorized representative for these funds. We recently sent out correspondence and asked each eligible district to identify who their authorized representative is. The name that you provided has been coded into the application within web grants so that only this person will see and be able to sign official documents like the grant award within the web grant system. Just a reminder, as with all grants, the school board must also approve these funds. So at your next school board meeting, you need to let them know what your RLIS allocation is and how you're spending the dollars, and have the school board officially approve it within their minutes. The supplement not supplant provision does apply to the RLIS funding. These federal funds need to be used to supplement, not supplant, any other funds that would otherwise have been used for these activities. These dollars are to fund additional staff or additional activities that have not already been obligated with your state or federal funds. Federal funds must enhance or add to services that are offered with state and local funds. Federal funds may not be used to replace any services or programs that were offered prior using state and local funds. There is a new application process this year for the RLIS funding. For this year, 2021, North Dakota school districts will complete their application and apply for RLIS funding within the department's web grant system. All web grant users will need to register and have their own user account. Those who have participated in prior applications, such as the recent ESSER applications, already have a login information and are approved within the grant system. If there are additional users from each district, they will need to register on their own. The name that you provided as the authorized representative needs to be registered so that they can go in and sign the grant award, which is actually called the contract within web grants. Grant recipients can determine which district users should be included for specific grant awards. Not all district users will be able to see grants awarded to their district in web grants. Since these are federal funds, all funds must be issued on a reimbursement basis. So you will, once you have received approval, you will go ahead and spend the RLS funding as you've indicated, and then you will seek reimbursement through the web grant system. We'd like to talk next about the allowable uses of these funds. The funds under the RLIS program are meant to supplement the federal title funds that you apply for through the consolidated application process. Therefore, the allowable uses of these funds align directly with the consolidated application. So you can use these funds for number one, any activity authorized under Title I, Part A. Number two, activities under Title II, Part A. Number three, activities under Title III, the LEP and Immigrant Student Grant. Number four, activities under Title IV, Part A, and activities under Title IV, Part E. Next in the guidance, it goes through each of these title programs and provides additional information as far as what are the key activities within each grant and a link to the allowable activities. We're not going to go through this section in detail. However, you may want to refer back to each section as far as what is allowable within each of those areas. Next, on page 5 of the guidance, it talks about coding and tracking of these dollars. LEAs must track these funds separately to report uses of funds and expenses in the future. The following codes have been created and aligned with the ND FAR. DPI has created the code of 089 specifically for the RLIS funding. As federal funds, these dollars are also subject to the Edgar and UGG guidance. DPI is required to provide oversight on these funds and ensure they are used for allowable activities. Therefore, next we've outlined how DPI will monitor the RLIS funding. First, we will use the department's grants management system, Web Grants, for collecting reimbursement and oversight purposes. We will have LEA submit a copy of their ledger as well as invoices with every reimbursement claim to verify allowability. If there are any concerns, we may also do some potential desk reviews for randomly selected districts. The federal requirements only have one key accountability requirement, which is school districts that receive RLIS funding must administer the assessments under ESSA, which simply means you must test all students grades 3 through 8 and once in high school using the North Dakota State Assessment. There are minimal reporting requirements for these funds as well. School districts that receive funds from RLIS will need to submit a final report, which will be due July 15 of 2021. More information regarding the final report will be forthcoming. We've also listed in the guidance who to contact if you have questions. I have listed my contact information there, as well as Lisa Johnson's. That concludes the information we wanted to share with participants in this first training. Personnel responsible for the RLIS grant also need to review the second training video, which will walk you through the RLIS application within Web Grants. Rebecca Pollard within DPI's fiscal office is the presenter for that training. Again, if you have general questions and questions on allowability or any of the federal requirements, the best people to contact are myself or Lisa. If you have specific questions on Web Grants, then the best people to contact are Rebecca Pollard or Shauna Greff. Thank you for participating in this training. Please don't hesitate to reach out to any of the DPI staff for questions that you may have.